Hello explorers, thanks for joining us again and welcome back to another exciting and informative video on our YouTube channel. If you are joining us for the first time, we want to thank you for watching. Ghana must take ownership of its financial troubles. Start with slashing public expenditure. In this video, I will be able to dive deep into the specifics. I will explain to you why the current IMF bailout is not going to solve Ghana's economic problems. So without any more delay, let's just dive straight into it. I will advise you to watch this video to the end for better understanding and clarity. If you consider Ghana's economic woes continue as the country seeks International Monetary Fund support for the 17th time. The bailout was necessary after the new electronic levy transaction failed to yield expected results. Looking forward, previous IMF programs have improved macroeconomic stability in Ghana. Fiscal discipline in the country often depends on the same program, as self-imposed controls are rare. Nonetheless, the solution to Ghana's crisis lies with its government and people. The economy has suffered significantly since early 2022, plunging the country into a full-blown economic recession. Inflation rose from 13.9% as of January to just over 37.2% in September. Some experts see this and believe the actual level is more than twice the official rate, possibly as high as 98%. Petrol and diesel prices have jumped by over 88% and just over 126.6% respectively. Most public transport fares have increased by over 100% since January of this year. Moving forward, likewise, water and electricity tariffs have risen by over 27.2% and just over 21.1% respectively this same year. According to the World Bank, Ghana has the highest food prices in sub-Saharan Africa, with prices soaring to just over 122% looking at different figures. The country's interest rate of just over 30% and lending rate of 35% are the highest in Africa. According to Bloomberg, the Ghana cedi is now the worst performing currency globally in different aspects, and the IMF revised Ghana's projection growth to 2023. Looking at different aspects considering the fiscal discipline in Ghana and often depends on IMF program and self-imposed controls. The problem began when international credit rating agencies downgraded the countries to junk status due to unsustainable and growth debt. The relegation denies access to global capital markets and prevented the raising of billions of US euro bonds required to serve its debts and support the Ghana cedi, which is then went into free fall. The major problem now is rising debt, which stands above 80% of GDP and is projected to reach over 104% by the end of 2022. Ghana has now trusted its debts into decreasing as 70% of its total revenue must go towards debt servicing. This leaves little room for other statutory obligations or investment in education, health and infrastructure. While the government blames the economic crisis on the COVID-19 and Russia invasion of Ukraine, the political opposition and some civil society organizations believe state mismanagement largely is responsible for this situation. Several structural problems must be fixed. For instance, the country's inability to produce for export and its reliance on imports for daily consumption has led to a perpetual deficit in its international balance of trade. That means that Ghanaian currency is fated to be inherently weak comparable to the dollar, leading to high import prices that hit consumer. Poor public financial management is also a factor, especially the higher level of unproductive and profligate government expenditure. From 2017 to 2020, Ghana, a small country, had over 120 ministers and 1,000 presidential staffers. These lucrative appointees drain the country's purse if you consider that in different areas. The major problem is rising debt, which stands above over 80% of GDP and is projected to reach over 104% by the end of this year. If you consider this crisis, the crisis further aggravated by government spending on flagship programs that didn't yield expected results, such as the NAPCO, a graduate apprenticeship program in Ghana, and One Village, One Dam. As of 2018, financial sectors clean-up cost Ghana over $4 billion borrowed fund. The government's figures pointed out, a figure experts believe could have been less had implementation been more efficient. debt was also driven by 2014 capacity change agreement that enabled independent power producers to address energy shortages. The government says that the country paid over $937 million in capacity changes between 2017 and 2020. Ghanaian government also have a history of large fiscal deficit in election years. As of 2020, the deficit was over 15% of GDP compared to 8% average from 2017 to 2019. If you are new to this channel, we will encourage you to subscribe and share our videos with your different network. Domestic revenue mobilization is also weak due to tax competition for large corporations, government cronies, and also corruption. The country loses about 2.5 billion, looking at $300 million if you convert that from the Ghanaian cedi annually in this particular way. According to Auditors General, public finance irregularities from 2016 to 2020 amounted to about 48 billion Ghanaian cedi. A recent report to the parliament also flagged out billions of US dollars in financial irregularities as of 2020. In financial irregularities in 2021, looking at 36% higher than that of 2020. To achieve macroeconomic stability, the government has applied for over 3 billion IMF bailout program starting in the frequent quarter of 2023, with discussion focused on debt restructuring to give the government fiscal space. Meanwhile, the state can boost public confidence in economic through other different measures. Having over 120 ministers and just over 1,000 presidential staffers was a drain on Ghana's public purse. Firstly, the Fiscal Responsibility Act, capping government's deficit at 5% total revenue that was suspended in 2020 due to the COVID-19, should be restored. Secondly, measures are needed to drastically reduce government size, including allowance and bonuses. Foreign travel and new vehicle purchases should be banned unless it's vital in Ghana. Initiatives such as the free senior high school program must be reviewed to improve their efficiency. If you look at the third aspect which could be suggested, revenue mobilization measures are needed. The newly passed tax exemption bill, which has clear eligibility criteria and provides for monitoring and evaluation, should be implemented. The new bill could reduce tax exemptions to at least over 500 million Ghanaian cedi, looking at just 66 million US dollars. If you consider this, using technology, the government could also improve property tax collections, which has been sporadic and low due to poor information about ownership and accurate violation. The extractive industry could also bring in revenue if tax regime is tightened and property implemented. The government must also seal the leaks at ports to resilience more to exercises and also increase import duties. Parliament should also enact legislations to establish a debt limit and cap government's borrowing to prevent the crisis from recurring. Constitutional amendment to limit the number of ministers and appointees in government, abolishing ex gratia payments, and review emulations for public servants must be considered. Looking at closing this particular episode with regards to Ghana, Ghana's need a national industrialization plan anchored in a strong manufacturing sector with links to agriculture. The country of Ghana must establish import substitution and export-driven industrial based in its comparative advantage. The one district, one factory industrialization agenda should be reviewed and better implemented. The measures can improve the country's trade balance and government's revenue in different areas. Hopefully, we've been able to inform you with regards to the challenges and economic situation that the country of Ghana finds itself at the moment. Let us know what you think as some of these measures we've discussed and analyzed could implement some growth and also bring Ghana back to the situation and where it was recently. We are looking forward to meeting you in our next episode. If you are from Ghana, we will encourage you to let us know what are the difficulties that your country is facing at the moment and what are the measures that are in place to take this great country of Africa back to where it was in past couple of years. I want to thank you for watching. If you are new to this channel, we will encourage you to check some of our informative video. We're looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Have a good day. Bye-bye.